What if I told you that a regional war just between two countries ended up shaking the entire global order? That borders weren't the only things redrawn, but alliances, economies, and even the future of warfare itself. Welcome to the story of how the India-Pakistan War of 2025 didn't just affect South Asia, it changed the world. In this video, we're diving deep into the war that everyone saw coming, but no one was prepared for. What led to it? How did it unfold? Who won? And more importantly, who lost on the global stage? And how has this single event reshaped global dimensions politically, economically, and militarily? Strap in, because this isn't just history. This is the future we're living in now. Tensions between India and Pakistan have always simmered below the surface. But in early 2025, things escalated rapidly. A deadly terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir, allegedly backed by militants operating from Pakistani territory, led to an immediate response from the Indian government. The death toll was devastating. Civilians, soldiers, chaos. It was India's 9/11 moment again. New Delhi accused Islamabad of harboring terrorist networks and vowed a decisive response. Pakistan denied any involvement, calling it a false flag operation. But this time, neither side blinked. On March 17, 2025, India launched surgical airstrikes deep into Pakistan-occupied territories. Pakistan retaliated with missile fire and Air Force deployments. What began as a tit-for-tat quickly spiraled into full-blown armed conflict. For the first time in decades, two nuclear powers were at war. The initial weeks were marked by traditional warfare, tanks, artillery, airstrikes. India advanced along the line of control. Pakistan counter-raided with drone swarms and missile systems. But this war was unlike any before. It was also a war of cyber attacks, AI-driven surveillance, and disinformation campaigns. Both sides attacked each other's satellites. Internet grids went down. Banking systems were hit. Stock markets across Asia trembled. China, a long-time ally of Pakistan, issued strong statements against India. Troops were moved near the Ladakh border. The message was clear: don't expand the war. Meanwhile, the United States urged calm but quietly leaned toward India, seeing it as a strategic counter to China. Russia tried to mediate, but quietly supplied arms to both sides. And for the first time, the Middle East found itself getting involved, not just politically, but militarily. Turkey sent aid to Pakistan. The UAE warned of economic fallout. Iran tried to play both sides. This wasn't just a regional conflict anymore. This was a stress test for global diplomacy. As the war dragged into its third month, the world changed. Permanently. The United Nations failed to broker a ceasefire. The Security Council was paralyzed. Vetoes flew from all directions. India refused to stop without assurance of zero-terror infrastructure in Pakistan. Pakistan demanded international condemnation of Indian aggression. Meanwhile, global powers started choosing sides, not based on principles, but interests. The United States, under pressure from its Indian diaspora and Silicon Valley tech giants, offered surveillance tech and intelligence to India. China, increasingly isolated in Asia, doubled down on its support for Pakistan, even considering naval deployment in the Arabian Sea. Europe was divided. The UK called for restraint. France offered to mediate, Germany tried to stay neutral, but businesses were bleeding. Russia tried to act as a peace broker, but with limited success. Suddenly, old alliances looked shaky. NATO partners disagreed on how to respond. BRICS, once seen as a new power bloc, began to fracture. This war exposed a new kind of Cold War, multipolar, economic, and tech-driven. This wasn't just a war of soldiers and tanks. This was a war of algorithms and microchips. India used AI-powered drones for surgical strikes. Pakistan used Chinese-made swarm drones for defense. Satellite jamming became routine. Both countries targeted each other's critical infrastructure, railways, power grids, even hospitals, through cyber warfare. Fake videos of leaders surrendering or ordering nuclear attacks flooded social media, creating confusion even among soldiers. The line between reality and simulation blurred. Global tech giants were forced to take sides. Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook blocked or flagged content from one side or another. India accused Meta of bias. Pakistan accused Google of censorship. The war forced the world to rethink the role of big tech in geopolitics. While missiles flew across borders, the real damage rippled across continents. The Indian stock market crashed, then bounced, then crashed again. Pakistani currency plummeted, but it wasn't just them. Oil prices spiked thanks to instability near the Strait of Hormuz and Gulf refineries being on alert. Trade routes in the Arabian Sea were disrupted. Insurance premiums on shipping doubled overnight. Global supply chains, already fragile post-COVID, snapped again. Textiles from Pakistan, delayed. Pharmaceuticals from India, shortage. IT services, slowed down. Rice exports, halted. Southeast Asia and Africa, heavily reliant on Indian and Pakistani imports, faced economic stress. China, watching carefully, used the moment to push its own yuan-based trade deals. Meanwhile, the US dollar surged as investors sought safe havens. Wall Street thrived, but Main Street suffered. The war reshaped global trade corridors, and for many developing nations, it was the final straw, pushing them into recession. Let's not forget, behind the maps and missiles were millions of lives. Over 150,000 people were displaced on both sides. Cities like Lahore, Amritsar, and Srinagar turned into ghost towns. Hospitals overflowed, borders closed. International humanitarian aid poured in, but was slowed by the ongoing conflict. The South Asian diaspora, especially in the UK, US, and Gulf states, mobilized funds, organized protests, and pressured governments. This war wasn't just fought on borders. It was fought in communities around the world. And yet, even in the darkest hours, diplomacy began to stir. Secret meetings in Istanbul, quiet calls from Qatar, pressure from ASEAN. Eventually, after 4 brutal months, a fragile ceasefire was agreed. Brokered by Turkey and France, both sides pulled back, bruised, bloodied, but not broken. So, what changed? More than you think. Global alliances shifted. The US-India relationship became formalized. Think joint military bases, intelligence sharing, and defense deals. Pakistan moved even closer to China, sealing a massive new energy corridor through Balochistan. Russia, tired of trying to please both, focused inward. Europe realized it could no longer be a passive observer. South Asia militarized further. Defense budgets in both India and Pakistan shot up by over 30%. AI weapon systems, missile defense shields, and cyber defense took center stage. The region became the most volatile nuclear flashpoint in the world. The UN lost relevance. Its inability to intervene or mediate sparked global debate. Emerging powers began calling for a new international body, more inclusive, less paralyzed by vetoes. Technology became a weapon. From AI warfare to quantum encryption, the war proved that future conflicts will be fought, not just on land, but in cyberspace, satellite space, and media space. Public opinion became power. Governments realized that controlling the narrative was half the battle. Fake news, influencer campaigns, and deepfakes became standard military tools. The India-Pakistan War of 2025 didn't end with a clear winner, but it made one thing clear. The world we lived in before the war is not the world we live in now. Borders didn't just shift on maps, they shifted in minds, in alliances, in economies. South Asia emerged not just as a flashpoint, but as a central player in global politics. And as always in war, the greatest lesson wasn't about firepower or diplomacy. It was about how fragile and how interconnected our world really is. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown valuable, hit like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments, what do you think this war tells us about the future of global power? See you in the next one.